You've got to love a V8, haven't you? Like the gastrointestinal rumblings of Thor himself after a very big meal. I also like the irony of the fact that just after Jaguar has announced that it will be fully electric by the middle of this decade, I'm driving a supercharged V8. It does sound so good. It just puts a smile on your face.
The familiar supercharged 5-litre V8 hasn't actually changed a great deal. Power remains the same at 542 bhp, and the torque figure has only increased very slightly to 516 pounds-foot.
That's up about 15 pounds-foot compared to before. The main reason for that, and in fact the main difference really, is that we've got the torque converter from Project 8.
That being the wild, stripped-out, track-orientated XF they did a couple of years ago. And what this more robust torque converter means is that there are no limitations. You can now access all the available torque all of the time. If the engine is producing it, the gearbox can handle it.
The shifts, they're really quick and strong. In dynamic mode you almost sometimes think, I'll just ratchet them back to comfort, but they've got real character, a real edge to them. They thump home.
The effective increase in torque in the lower gears means the 0 to 60 mph time has come down from 4.1 to 3.8 seconds. Tweaks to the car's aerodynamics, nothing fake here apparently, have also seen the coefficient of drag drop very slightly and the top speed increase from 176 to 178 miles an hour.
To be honest though, I'm not sure it's the engine that will instantly attract people to this car. Certainly I don't think the changes are anything that will make people want to upgrade from the old one. However, what people will want is this new interior. Let's put it back into comfort for a second, just to quieten it down so I can talk about this interior, which is really, really attractive, I think. In other applications, I'd say having this big sort of tablet of a screen here, not integrated into the car, could look a bit awkward, but somehow it just seems to work. It all seems to fit and is nicely integrated into the overall design of this interior. The materials, I noticed this in the new F-Type, they seem to be really, really good quality. This steering wheel, again, it's nice, it's just simple in some ways, it's round, but it's deeply dished, beautiful to hold, and there's a very sculptural quality to all the elements around here. I love the fact you can see through to the big paddles, and they are fantastic paddles. This is what a paddle should be like. Just, yeah, why more companies don't do it, I don't know, but it makes them a real joy to use. The touchscreen itself is easy to navigate. We've got all the various things that fall easily to hand, and I like the fact as well that if you want to change the dynamics of the car, there's a separate screen for that. It's easily accessible. So when you're in dynamic mode, you can change the engine, the steering, the suspension and the gear shift, and they just toggle on and off, and you can leave it there. It just works. I think it's a really good system. And then down here as well, the switches, the rotary switches for changing between modes, they're tactile. They look nice, they feel nice. It is a triumph of interior, I think. Got a head-up display in here as well. And as I've said before, I'm a big fan of a head-up display. Things I don't like, not a lot to be honest. The only thing I'd say is that perhaps I'm just sitting a touch too high.
Whilst I'm talking about things I don't like, I have to mention the extension that has been added to the roof spoiler. Hideous. It looks like you've got to the end of an IKEA build with a shelf to spare, so just nailed it on anyway.
Whatever the aero benefits of that were, or are, I don't think they're worth it for the aesthetics. It's a case where function should have followed form. Right, that's enough of the quietness. Bring back dynamic mode. and all the noise. What a sound.
In the corners, the Jaguar does without two of the things that seem de rigueur on any posh SUV these days: air suspension and an electric anti-roll system. But since the F Pace was launched 2 years ago, the small special vehicles team has apparently done a lot of detail work to refine the car. So, the Bilstein dampers have been revised, as has the E-Pass system. At the rear, 60% of the bushings are new, it's got stiffer toe links, and there are new bump stops. At the front, there are new lower control arms and the engine mounts are now asymmetric. This is also the only F Pace with a split tyre fit, 265s at the front, 295s at the rear, and the new 22-inch wheels are lighter, stiffer, forged items.
And the aim of all that is to increase lateral stiffness whilst retaining the compliance vertically. I like the bit of roll that there still is in this car, but it just feels really precise through a set of tight bends like that. 70% of the torque goes to the rear, 30% to the front. In dynamic, 90% of the torque goes to the rear and just 10% to the front, and the system can only ever send 50% to the front.
The E-diff has also been retuned and there is some torque vectoring by braking. It all adds up to a car that feels responsive and engaging in a way that a tall 2,133 kilo car really shouldn't. It doesn't have the agility and playfulness of the best fastest 8s, which is why I'd still prefer a Mercedes E63S wagon, but it feels more natural in its behaviour than a lot of other fast SUVs I've driven.
The brakes are really good. They've changed the booster, and you really do notice it because although they feel quite sharp from the top of the pedal, you've got a firm pedal and it almost feels a bit sort of unassisted, but that's really nice. It's strange to start with, but then the more you get used to it, the more it's really reassuring actually, just having that firm pedal underfoot. Although you can't really sort of get into it on the road, on a track, you can see where just being able to lean really confidently on the brake pedal, you actually get the car rotating and feel it a little bit through these corners. That the F Pace SVR was always going to sound good was sort of a given, but that it should drive this well, that's a real surprise.
The F Pace SVR looks like a big car. And it is. With 1,842 litres of boot space with the rear seats folded, it comprehensively beats a Porsche Cayenne or Audi RS6. So it is a big car. And yet, the driving experience actually reminds me more of a smaller SUV, the Alfa Stelvio Quadrifoglio. It's priced like a smaller performance SUV too, because at £77,500 it's about 25% less than a Range Rover Sport SVR with the same engine. A Cayenne Turbo starts at well over £100,000 too, and an Aston Martin DBX with identical power and torque outputs is over £80,000 more. So, if you want, you can convince yourself that it's a bit of a bargain. Until you take fuel consumption into account, of course, because even the measly claimed figure of 23.1 mpg will be hard to achieve with an engine that sounds this good. Thank you very much indeed for watching. If you enjoyed that, then please do think about subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. We've got some very exciting content coming up in the next few weeks and you won't want